Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Keith Peal, Vice President of Baker Rock Resources. As we are looking at the starting gate of implementing phase one, we thought it would be a good opportunity to bring folks together to have a conversation about what that's going to look like. And we thought it would be great to have someone who's already been living it. And so Baker Rock Resources is considered an essential business and has been navigating all of the protocols and safety precautions required for an essential business and during this entire time. And so I thought it would be great to have Keith share with us his experiences as he has been navigating this with his company with 135 employees. So Keith, I'm going to turn it over to you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Deanna, and thank you everybody for taking time out of your schedule to be here. Some of you, I know, Josh and Brad, you've heard a little bit of this already because we've been kind of talking about it in various meetings. It's interesting as I thought about this a little bit today and how I could best kind of share some of the information. It was interesting where we were at when we started here just a couple of months ago. And I remember when the whole COVID discussion was starting to unfold and the government was starting to issue emergency orders and businesses were starting to have to close, and we kind of got together as a group. I remember the Sunday afternoon that we got together on a conference call, all of my leadership colleagues, and there's 5 of us on the leadership team at Baker Rock Resources, all with different tasks and responsibilities. And the call was interesting because it started with, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I wonder if we're going to be able to operate. Are we going to have to shut down? What is it going to look like? What is going to happen to sales and what are we going to do with the people? All of those normal questions that you would ask, and it was magnified and amplified from this perspective that none of us knew the answers to any of the questions. I mean, we really didn't. And I think that that's really the uniqueness to the situation is that it's all new for all of us, right? This is uncharted ground. I mean, none of us have had to deal with this before. So we kind of had that first 5 or 10 minutes of discussion and kind of wringing our hands, if you will. And then it kind of set the tone, actually by our owner, Todd Baker. And Todd said, look, I'm interested in keeping our people working and I'm willing to spend a significant amount of our resources to keep people working and employed. Well, for us, that was our cue, right? That was our message, I think, that we were in this and we were going to see our way through and we just needed to buckle down and figure out how we're going to make this work. So we kind of went to work and each one of us has specific parts of our business. Mine is the marketing and sales, the customer relationship pieces of it, significantly engaged in culture of our company, et cetera. But we have, obviously our folks that deal with the admin part, the human resources part, people that deal with our supply chain and our equipment and our facilities, people that deal with our construction end and our production side of things. And so everybody kind of kicked themselves into gear here and started to figure out, okay, what does this look like for us? There were 2 key things that we identified immediately that we needed to do. One is that we needed to be mindful of safety in every decision that we made. We needed to consider safety for not just each other, but for our clients and customers and for everybody that would be part of the discussion. So that was first and foremost. And the second thing was exactly that. Communication as we know it was changing. I mean, we weren't going to have the opportunity to necessarily go and walk into somebody's office and have a conversation the way that we did. So we needed to figure out how to pivot and how to do things effectively. We were fairly fortunate. I mean, first thing that we did is we had started as a company a few months back of allowing people to work from home. And so we were able to pivot with that. Most of our people have laptops and such. Our IT people were quick on the draw. Within 24 hours, we had all non-essential people working remotely from their homes. Now, we brought discipline to that. One of the key things that we did is we had already had a document in place for work remote agreements and what expectations were, hours that they needed to work. We had all of those structures in place, so it made it fairly simple for us. Really, at that point, it was just an IT thing and getting people hooked up and working from home. I'm going to say within 48 hours, we had everybody deployed remotely. So then we switched gears a little bit And human resources really worked in overdrive and overtime. We rewrote our policies. We looked at every individual component of our business, whether it would be operations, whether it be the sales department, whether it be the admin. And when we pared down to essential people that had to be there, then we figured out a way for those people to be separated in the business. How are we going to rearrange how the table looked, if you will, to move people around? Who needed to do what, and where did they need to be, and how was that going to look? That all went fairly smoothly for us. It wasn't without its hiccups, because as we started to deploy or utilize different ways of having people in different positions, things popped up. Well, what if this happened, or what if that happens? One of the things that was kind of unique is a lot of our people were not really adapted to the change. They didn't necessarily like the fact that we were changing things. They didn't like the fact that we were asking them to stay 6 feet apart, or have a face covering, or wash their hands, or not share their tools, on and on. There were a numerous amount of things that they didn't necessarily really want to follow the rules. We're lucky enough to have a safety officer, and if you don't have one, you could designate someone as a safety officer. We made it part of our policy. We wrote the policies literally overnight that said, okay, this isn't just what we'd like to do, this is what we're going to do. And then we enforce those policies. We put our safety officer in the field every single day, checking all of our people, all of our facilities. And we tried to do it not from the perspective that we wanted to be heavy-handed. We really truly used it under the idea that we wanted our people to be safe, and we wanted them to be secure. And I think at first there was some pushback to that. They saw our safety guy coming, and it was like, okay, here he comes again. Oh my gosh, we got to keep our distance. But it didn't take very long once it became a policy, and once you made people sign off on the policy and own it, then it became kind of part of what we did, and that part became much easier to do. I think probably one of the bigger things internally that we started doing at the same time is on the communication piece. We started to talk amongst ourselves. We set up regular meetings every other day. We were doing Zoom meetings as a leadership team, even if they were very short, to talk about what we felt things were going, how we felt things were going, what we needed to change, what we needed to adjust. And we started communicating with our people. I think it was very important for two pieces with our people. One is they needed to know that we were solid and that things were okay. And I'll get to that in a minute, because I want to talk about that some more. But they needed to know that we had a plan. They needed to know that we knew, we had plan A, B, C, D, and E. And if it was plan F and we didn't have the information, we'd get the information, we'd find it. They needed to know that we were going to continue to operate. Todd, every Sunday morning, started writing a weekly update for all of our people. He'd send it to myself and our director of administration, and we would go through and edit that every single week. And every single Monday, we would be distributing that to all of our people. And a lot of times it was some of what we were doing, but some of it was including what we were doing as far as them, how we viewed them. He wanted to make sure that we were conveying as an organization that we were going to hold our people. And the best way I can convey that, is probably one of the things that I learned the most through this, is that we needed to make sure that our people felt secure, that they felt that they had a job that was secure, that they understood that the people that were making the decisions for their company, for the place that they work, for their paycheck, were making good ones and thinking about the things that were going to affect them. Now, it was easier for us because we could stay working, and we're well capitalized. We're 64-year-old family-owned business. But we put our people's concerns ahead of even our business's concerns. We know that we need to run the business and keep the business healthy, but we made our people the focal point of every single discussion. And because of that, they felt essential. They felt like they were a part of the solution. And we heard over and over again that people were thankful to be still working. And they appreciated more than the efforts that we put in to communicate about what was going on. we started shoveling information. What were the expectations? What were the safety procedures? Over and over again, probably ad nauseum to some, but it was a new norm, and it's hard to break habits. And the only way you're going to break those habits is to continually provide that information stream. And we were getting feedback. We'd get continual feedback that people really appreciated that and they liked that. You know, when I talk about the employees being held thing, it's a little bit of a hard thing to describe when I talk about that, but I'll use the analogy of a child. When a child gets hurt and a parent holds them, they feel comfort. Well, that's what we were trying to do with our people, and we had never really given much thought to that in the past, but we knew that this was an event that was affecting people's lives. You know, people were reading the news, and people are dying from this disease and from this virus, and, you know, thousands of people are losing their jobs. So how could we help alleviate and bring some comfort to that fear and that concern? The little that we could offer was really to just offer and let them know that we were being as secure as we could be, and that we had their best interests at heart, and that we were in it together. And it's a little bit of a cliche, but we wanted to make sure that they fully felt that, and that was a feeling that they had. And I think it was probably one of the most important things that we did. Over communicate. I mean, we still do it. We do twice a week. I also write a sales update. We started to provide, you know, what is our workload? What do we got going? How much work do we have on the books? What's the season look like? I did economic forecast. Anybody that wanted to listen could sit in and listen. I provided 6-month, 12-month. I combed through all kinds of economic data to try and get as best a picture as I could. I sat through dozens of Zoom meetings with economists and anything that I could consume so I could understand, so I could share the best information with our people. So, I mean, that's a smidget of what we've been doing. We have literally been working nonstop. I'm really proud of the work that we've done. It's not been easy. It's been clunky. We've made a ton of mistakes. We've acknowledged the mistakes. We have been open. We've been transparent. We've shared with our people. One of the things that I'm really proud of we provided an economic stimulus to our people. We decided that we were going to give each employee a $400 bonus as an economic stimulus. So we wrote a cover letter with that, and we invited our people in our company to spend that locally, find the local mom and pop, order from the local takeout. You know, we made contributions to community action. We went to you know, the farmers markets and stuff like that, the lower farmers market, went to a lot of the smaller organizations and said, look, we want to help. We're in with our sponsorships still. We're still able to do some of this. We want to try to help do our part to be a part of the community. We did all of these things simultaneously, and it was just the guiding thing for us. It was just the right thing to do. Now, they take resources. You know, if you're a business and you're struggling to make your rent, making your payroll, then obviously you don't have the resources. But I'm here to tell you that it's not just about the resources. The resources sometimes can be the communication. It can be the discussion with people. It can be the discussion with those in the community to rally around each other, to lead them, to have leadership vision and share that with others. I think having leadership vision is absolutely key, because people are depending upon other people, and they want to know, they want to make sure that we know how we're going to get to where we're going to go. If there's a bump in the road, how are we going to get past that bump in the road? So, you know, those are some of the things that we did. You know, we kind of try to approach everything and continue to still approach everything today with a fresh perspective. We challenged our people, you know, look, if we can't do that, what's the workaround? An example was, we're trying to bring new employees on board, new drivers on board, and we normally would do a 2-week in-cab training with them. Okay, so if we can't train in the cab, how do we train out of the cab? We've set up obstacle courses. Instead of doing on-road training, we're doing in-the-facility training. We bought a video camera and set up a video camera and an audio system inside the cab so the supervisor can remotely manage. We challenge every single one of our managers to find a new way to do what they need to do. And surprisingly enough, they've all really risen to the occasion and more, and done a great job with that. It's a fine line, and you have to be kind of careful, because in some segments, we can't give too much leeway because people won't make good decisions. An example of that is, as it relates to safety, we had to be very strict in safety because people will fall back into old habits and get lax. So we had to be fairly disciplined about that, and we had to kind of stick to that one a whole bunch. You know, on the preparation side for the what if, we planned for the worst and expected the best. I mean, we did sales models, and I modeled our business with a down 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%. We did analysis on how many essential people we would need to have. Who would they be? How would it look? How would we continue to operate? What did we need for facilities? We didn't leave any stone unturned in discussing what we needed to do. So it's a lot of information. I think you get the idea. This is not easy. It's a lot of hard work, but we can do this. If you're a business and you're dealing with some of these challenges, you can do this too. But you have to do the hard work. You have to ask yourself the tough questions, and you have to be willing to ask for help. You have to be willing to make mistakes. You have to be willing to be bold and make decisions, even when they're unpopular. I mean, you know, having to do the analysis on who was going to get furloughed or laid off if we had to close was really hard. I mean, these are people's lives, and I don't enjoy that at all. I mean, it was a piece that I hated to do, but I knew that I needed to do it because at the end of the day, we needed to have a plan. And we conveyed most of that to our employees every step of the way, so they knew what we were doing. I think that that's probably been absolutely key to what we've done so far. So I've talked for quite a while. I've got a whole bunch of list of marketing things that I could share as well, but I don't want to just talk everybody's ear off. So if other people have questions or such, I think maybe I'll kind of stop there and just kind of throw the door open and say, okay, does anybody have anything that I haven't covered that maybe you want to ask about? Yeah, Josh, you go first.
Yeah, hi guys. Thanks, Keith. We're kind of in a similar situation where auto industry, most of it was deemed essential right off the bat. We furloughed where there's about 300 employees total in the auto group between 4 stores and a body shop. Furloughed, I would say almost half. And now we're starting to phase people back in. And the thing that I'm concerned with is how are you guys handling folks that, I mean, hey, they've been furloughed. They are hopefully receiving unemployment. They may be fearful with the stay-at-home order, even though Baker Rock, you know, their job may be essential. As you're starting to bring people back, how are you handling folks that might be hesitant or, I don't know, my internet connection's unstable, might be hesitant or worried or just say like, make me the last one? Because it seems like there's 2 options. You could either say, well, we offered it back, you didn't take it, so sorry. Or, you know, the softer approach of, okay, we'll check in with you down the road. How are you guys doing that?
That's a really, really good question, Josh. And it's a little bit different for us because we didn't stop working. So we haven't stopped and then had to bring people back. But there's a fear factor. I had a fear factor when this first happened. I mean, I was worried about my age and being health compromised a little bit. And I'm worried about this thing, thinking, okay, I need to work from home because I'm afraid to go into the office. I'm nervous about this thing, right? I think each one of us faced that. I think that goes back to the part I was talking about being held. I think if we remember that this is a pretty significant event in our lifetime, and not to make it larger than it is, but it's pretty large. And if we share that, if we talk about their concerns, if we make sure that we're communicating and we reinforce the fact that, look, we're going to make sure that we've got plenty of cleaning supplies, and we're going to make sure that we've got face coverings. And, you know, we went above and beyond. We sent people out, and we had people that were willing to go and we found cleaning supplies, we found bandanas, we found face masks, not to the detriment of our healthcare people. I mean, we actually had N95 masks that we actually donated, but we found the gear, the supplies that we needed, and it was hard. We had to dig and scratch and find the stuff and improvise. We couldn't find spray bottles, for gosh sakes, and so we emptied spray bottles and washed them of other cleaners and stuff that we had, and made sure that they were clean, and then made Clorox solutions and stuff like that. But when we did all of those things and we we made sure that people understood that we were completely vested in their safety, they felt a lot more secure about coming to work, and they felt better about it, and they felt like somebody cared about them, and they understood that. An opposite example of that is I have a family member that works in the medical professional that actually works at a hospital down in Salem, and we were talking over the weekend, and she has had absolutely no contact whatsoever from their employer, no guidance, no rules, no regulations, no moral support, no support of any kind. And I hear that and I'm like, holy shmoly, I can't hardly believe that a business would not communicate with your people. So you can't alleviate all of that, Josh, but what you can do is you can do everything that you can in your power as an employer to make sure that they understand is that you're going to make the environment as safe as you possibly can for them, that you care about them and you have their best interests at heart above all. You have to run a business. I get it. We all get it. But if you convey that to your people, the fear goes a long ways towards being resolved. And when they feel like they're being held and you have their best interests at heart, it's amazing what they'll do for you too, and what the risk that they're willing to take for you, because they'll go to the mat for you if they feel that feeling.
Yeah, thanks.
Brad, did you have a question?
Yeah, so this is a kind of on the opposite end of that. We have, we're really small. We only have, with part-time and full-time, 9 people. But we're running into now on the other end of with our tenants. Some people are, we sent out a protocol for any kind of service call. First of all, we didn't do anything that wasn't a major service call. And then we changed it to, okay, we're going to start doing a little bit more stuff, not to go changing the squeaky hinge or that kind of stuff, but stuff that needs to be done that has been put off for a couple of weeks. And we developed a protocol that we send out to the tenants. You got to do this, a checklist of cleaning the area, removing people from the house, this and that. And we're starting to get blowback from people that think it's, you get the wide range of people that think this is a farce. You get the people that are scared to death to even interact with anybody. So we get people that say, no, we're not going to clean. We don't think we need to. Or we get people that say, you can't come in my house at all. And Joelle and I had kind of talked about this again of handling, how do you handle the opposite end, not your employees, more the people that your clients and or customers. And I know Joelle had run-ins with people the same thing. So I'd be interested to hear how both of you guys are handling that.
Well, I can tell you what we've done, Brad. We have a firsthand experience of that. We had a project that we were paving on in Beaverton, and our paving crew was out there, and our paving crew is maintaining their distance, doing all the things they need to do, have face coverings, gloves on. And we have a project manager for the company that we're working for that thinks it's ridiculous and foolish, objects to our safety guy being on site, stopping our work, our people, and reminding them has a problem with all of that. And our response was, if we can't follow our protocols and we can't follow our safety, and if you can't maintain your distance, we're out. We'll just pick up our stuff and leave. I mean, we have to have some distances. Look, there's a separation between what you think individually. We have a lot of people probably that still work for our company that don't necessarily think that this is that big of a deal. I mean, we probably all know people that don't think it's too big of a deal. Oh my gosh, and all of these restrictions are infringing on my rights and my civil liberties, if you will. Okay, I feel however you want, believe however you want. I fully support that. But we also have the right as a company to do the right things, and we have to be responsible for our people, whether they want to be responsible themselves or not. We have a right to provide a safe environment. We have a responsibility to do that. And so we're going to set our rules, and we're going to follow our rules. And if we don't want to follow our rules, then we'll change direction. We're out, and somebody's out if you don't want to follow our rules. And I think that the biggest piece of that is the discipline that comes with that. You have to be disciplined. You have to put it in writing. We put everything in writing and made sure that it was part of what we did. And I think that you have a right to set the rules that you want for your company. in your specific case with tenants and such, I'm not sure exactly how you do that, but I think it is well within your rights to make sure that you're doing what you need to do for your protection and for their protection, even if they don't think it's what they need. And there's a fine line there, but I think that if they still rent from you, that you still have some opportunity to write the rules there. And I think you have to be pretty specific with that.
Can I add just really quickly, Brad? So we deal with retail customers that still want to come to our stores and have the same experience, even though it's different now. And I think by and large, I mean, we've had, you know, a couple of one-offs here and there, folks that like don't want to believe in it, think they can come in, sit down, buy a car, test drive it with a sales for whatever. But I think the vast majority of folks that come in appreciate that we're taking kind of just, you know, I don't want to call it the high road because that sounds like morally better than something else, but just like, this is the world, we're taking these precautions, take it or leave it. Some people have left it because whatever, but we found that we didn't miss that. We had good months at all of our stores, and I think some of the takeaways from that will last well beyond whatever this is, just because, you know, you go the extra mile, people appreciate it, generally speaking, I think. And this is the, you know, this is the Hillsboro public that's coming in here or sending in leads and interacting with us. So,
Jayne, do you have a question?
I was going to add just a little bit of kind of back to the employees coming back, and we were talking about that. But one of the issues that we're facing is I have employees that are being affected by external circumstances. I have one of my clericals has 4 kids at home, and now suddenly she's becoming a teacher and having to deal with that. So she's furloughed. She basically furloughed herself because she fell under the COVID care guidelines that she could get unemployment because of the situation it's put her in. And so she's basically now off until school's out. And she's a student herself, so it's been kind of tough, but we've worked with her and we'll say, listen, we will keep you on medical benefits for that period of time. And that's the other big scary picture for them. If they're furloughing themselves or taking that time off, working with our benefit suppliers, they're saying, well, you should be taking them off medical. Well, that's where we're stepping in and saying, no, we'll keep them on. We're going to just basically say they're going to be self-isolating. We'll go ahead and fill that gap. But I think the biggest concern was with these parents saying, okay, we're going to be done with school mid-June. But now they're talking about maybe September being another online teaching. So it's that uncertainty piece that we're facing to try and help our employees who under no circumstances that we've presented or they're now being affected by the school issue. Or I have another employee, kind of our entry-level people who kid lives at home, wants to work, but his mom's saying, well, I really don't want to come in contact. And by the way, you can make more on unemployment with the $600 CARE Act than you can working. And let's run that. And we find out that 3 people in her family are doing that all had jobs that were considered essential. So it's that external piece that we're kind of dealing with.
Well, it's not perfect. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I think that, we haven't bounced along. Most of our people are pretty good wages in the construction business, right? And so it was to their benefit to obviously keep working. But I can see where, and I know I've heard lots of occasion where people have run into that same thing. I mean, in a perfect world, maybe it should have been dealt with a little bit different, but I think we've all seen with some of the CARE Act legislation, some of it wasn't probably as thought out as it could have been. And we had 2 people on the administration side of our business that had to do the same thing, that had kids to care for. So they were able to furlough, and we accommodated that, did the same thing. We're self-insured on the insurance side. So keeping them on the healthcare was something that we absolutely wanted to do. But they stayed home with their kids. And because I think we were good in supporting them, one of them has actually decided that, they've wanted to figure out some other ways. They've figured out some alternatives to take care of their kids, and now are back to working full time again. But we were able to partition out their responsibilities to other admin people, believe it or not, I think a lot of our folks were actually a little more productive working from home than they were when they were working in their office. I think we've all kind of found that to some degree. And good and bad. I mean, I miss the physical interaction with my staff and with our people. I miss that greatly, but I got not a whole lot of other stuff to do other than work. So, so that's what you do. So yeah, I think, but the key is, Jayne, I think, is that, and you touched on it, is that you did the things that you needed to do. You put your people first, and you tried to work with them, and you communicate. It's really common, basic things that you do. And you always have this, I think you guys will understand, you always have sometimes this tug of war between the business and the employees, and you have to keep some level of separation. And there's this them and us thing that goes on from time to time. Well, I think that this is an occasion where we've been able to get by that, and more, it's just more us. And when our people, I know, felt more us, then it's been easier to get people to adjust or accommodate the things that need to happen. You're muted, Deanna.
I am. Thank you. Joelle, did you have a question or want to make a comment?
Muted. There. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I was just going to comment back to what the question that Brad had said about people not conforming. And we opened a week ago to retail. We've been about 6 weeks, I would say, curbside only. And then a week ago, we opened for full retail. And we basically were just using the guidelines of other similar stores, particularly like New Seasons and what they were doing. But there isn't a lot of guidance for what you are and are not allowed. I think there's a fine line between what is appropriate and what isn't appropriate to ask people to do, particularly with the face masks and all of that when you're coming face to face with retail customers. So we have put up signs and asked them to wear masks, but not everyone does. And basically, I just told my staff that if they're ever uncomfortable with someone, that they're to call me or my husband, and we will be the ones that, talk to someone. And most people do have a mask or will say that they're going to come back if they don't. But the requirement piece, I think, is the question that we're going to keep coming back to is, do we require it like New Seasons does? I had someone tell me that they actually got physically removed from New Seasons because they refused to wear a mask. And we're not really there. We don't want to be, alienating people, but we do also want to follow what's, supposed to be safe. So we're kind of in the middle there.
You're muted, Deanna.
I keep talking to myself.
Yeah.
I always get the right answers, though. I never, there's no hassles, and I always get the right answers. So yesterday I had a conversation with some folks from the Washington County Health Department, and I asked the question, can you tell me the difference between required and recommended? And they laughed and said, they were kind of, it was, for them it wasn't clear, because I said, you've got guidelines, and you're telling me that you should follow the guidelines. Many times in the guidelines it says, it's recommended you do this and recommended you do that. So they did pull out the retail guidelines that'll go into phase 1 implementation, and it very clearly says face masks are required for your employees and your customers.
Oh, interesting.
So that does create that situation, though, of, who's going to be tackling somebody who doesn't want to put a face mask on and put the face mask on them so that's, that's going to be an interesting dynamic with your team. And I think to your point of, having your employees a place to go to get further assistance if you have a difficult customer. And I think also having a copy of those guidelines at the ready, so that if customers, question that, you can absolutely show them, we're just following the rules so we can stay in business. And we would ask you to do the same.
That's great feedback, Deanna.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to
go
say,
ahead.
You go.
I was just going to say, that's great advice, Deanna. And Joelle, one of the things that's kind of what I was thinking about and some of the stuff that we did. Plan for the what if, right? If your people know that they're going to be faced with those kinds of challenges, then they need to know, okay, so what do I do? So who do I contact? Much like you've already described. But what is our plan going to be for those people that won't follow the rules? What are those plans going to be for those that become a little bit unruly or whatever they may be? You've got to plan for the unexpected, and the people, your people, will feel much more comfortable if they know what they're supposed to do with that. And if there's no guideline, then you just got to try to make up your own and use your best judgment, because honestly, that's what all of us are having to do.
Right. We're considered essential, so we have been allowed to be open. We just chose not to be open for the first few weeks so that we could somewhat troubleshoot and see how other people were doing it. But it's nice to hear that guidelines are coming, because that's what we've basically been waiting for, is if someone tells us what to do, it will be much easier to implement, and know that we're doing it across the board and that everyone's doing it the same. It's a little bit hard to be the, guinea pigs and trying things and then seeing what works and what doesn't work. And we don't want to put anyone at risk. So we're being overly cautious, we think, but we're also open, which is kind of nerve-wracking. So.
And Jayne, your business is considered retail? Is that how it's categorized, as retail?
Us?
Yeah.
Who are you talking to?
Yeah, your business, Joelle.
Yes, we're a farm, and so farm, agriculture, and nursery are all considered essential. So we have been focusing on just the essential part of our business because we do have other things to offer. But we've been focusing heavily on produce and vegetable starts and all of the nursery product that people are looking for to do their gardening. And we were just taking the lead off of the local nurseries and then local grocery stores who are doing curbside pickup. We created a portion of our website where people can order all of the products that we have, and then have been strictly doing curbside up until this last week. And now as we approach our
now you're letting people into the store.
Right. And basically it's kind of a little bit of a joke, but not really a joke, that we're practicing right now in anticipation of our big season, which is summer berry, season. And that's creating a whole nother realm of concerns and things that we have to be dealing with. For us, the volume of people that come, at one time is pretty significant. And so I keep saying, well, this is our practice run for how to move people through our store, move people through our cash registers, with the social distancing and implementing all the rules, so that we feel like we're communicating it well ahead of time what our expectations are, rather than opening day one, and having people be surprised of what they're going to find when they come here. Because we have closed off certain areas of our farm. You can't come out and do a picnic. You can't go visit our animals. You can't do any of the kind of gathering things at this point. You can walk in, you can get what you need, you can pay, and you can leave. So that's where we're at right now. And then we're exploring and troubleshooting what to do as we get busier.
So do you have somebody at the door that's actually monitoring the number of people coming in and going out?
We do. Yes, we do. We have two phases of entrance. We have the entrance to the farm where you can go out and spread out and be, in the greenhouse or out in the nursery, and there's some space. And so we're pretty much right now not so busy that we can't let everyone in to kind of mill about. And we have signs at the entrance that say, we prefer that you have only 2 people shopping. We prefer kids, if they're with you, they stay right by you. You're not allowed to go into our, activity areas. And please wear a mask is basically what that says. And then once they get into our, into our area, we have a second entrance to our store where you pay. And that's where we have posted a sign outside that says, please wait here. And we have a person who stands there and chats with them and asks them why, do they need to go in to shop? Do they need to go in to pay? Are they going in for a milkshake? Because we are doing carry out for our food service, coffee and milkshakes. And so we kept a very good, handle on how many people are in there, We would let people one at a time in. We let 4 people in the store at a time. That's our number that we came up with. And we just monitored it the entire time. So it's a good time to talk to people too. So there's a lot of face-to-face customer service, but when you talk about bringing in staff, we actually find that we need more staff now. And so we're going to have to hire more people than normal. And I don't even have my full staff yet. So I'm trying to figure out how to interview and hire people without having much contact with them. And then, you know, not sure how it's going to look on a daily basis come summer.
Yeah, the whole sort of shopping retail experience has really, you know, how it used to be kind of the relaxing thing to do. Now it's like,
Right.
you know, you're like, oh my God, what do I have to do? Where's my mask? You know, making sure it's just an entirely different situation. But the folks from Washington County Health did say, you know, if there's a question about what you should be doing, they said it's word for word, the guidelines. They always, that's their default, is word for word what the guidelines, and I believe retail's finalized. And I think it's great that you're planning and practicing, because I do think that, you know, it's going to take practice. I was going to ask Keith about, you know, habits, right? So how many times do you have to do something or tell people something before you break what could be, you know, a 15-year career pattern of how I do things and how I, you know, interact with my other coworkers?
It took reminding people every day for at least 3 weeks and the other thing we would do is our safety officer would write a report and distribute that for all of our managers to look at every single day. And the other part of that is it was kind of self-policing pretty quick, because nobody wanted to be or have their people in the report. So that was, again, close that circle up a little bit. But it took about 3 weeks. And even now, I mean, I got a safety report yesterday that we had 2 people that had to be told to separate a little bit, that they were too close. So it's hard to get people. I mean, it's hard to get people to break habits. I mean, holy chimolies. I mean, I do the same thing. Todd even wrote about it. He wrote in his weekly letter this week to the employees, and he was telling about he had to have some electrical work. He had some electrical problem in his house, and they had the electrician come to the door, and he opened the door, and the guy was too close, and reached out to shake his hand, and Todd had to step back and say, no, we can't do that. And you know, it's hard to break habits. So, but with constant reminders and with that follow-up process, you know, you can get people to change, and they understand why we're doing it. It's not to be difficult. It's for their safety.
So I'm just wondering, so how you sourced and the added expense of all of the PPE that you've had to bring in and make sure that, and Jolene, I mean, you're in a retail setting. If somebody doesn't have a mask, then do you provide them with a mask, or do you, I mean, and then all of a sudden it's like, this is getting expensive. You know, I'm going to need you to buy 5 milkshakes to pay for that mask I just got for you.
So I was not planning on doing that. I'll be really interested as soon as we get off here, I'm going to get on Washington County and try to get that information. We're governed by the Department of Agriculture, and so that's who we were looking to and waiting for. But I hadn't seen anything yet, so we'll be checking that out. But I have a source for some of the disposable masks, and then I read in the fine print that they're made in China. And so I started being concerned about ordering a whole bunch of those kinds of masks, because our plan was to provide masks for our staff, and particularly our berry pickers, you know, the people that are working with the fruit. We're going to, you know, put gloves on them and masks so that while they're picking, they're protecting the fruit that we're, you know, picking and providing for customers. But I had not thought that we would provide them to customers.
Yeah, I agree. That's hard to find.
We have them. We also found a source, and I don't know where our people found this, but we ordered, I think we bought about 750 bandanas. And so we're allowing our people, if they want one, they can have access to them, clients, customers, visitors. Obviously, we have a protocol. I mean, we just started our recent logging any people that come in and out of our facility for contact tracing to make sure that we have a log of that. But we're providing bandanas for anybody that comes to our facility. And if you need one, want one, we're more than happy to give you one. And so that's what we've done with that. And for our people, I mean, it's the same thing. Early on, we were able to find most masks for our people and or bandanas. A lot of our people had their own too. So that helped quite a bit. And we had a lot of trouble with cleaning supplies. But again, what we were able to do is find bleach in bulk, and then our people in the shop were able to mix that and dilute that. And we eventually found spray bottles. And so we've got spray bottles. We set up remote wash stations so people could, particularly we have a lot of field people, so we set up remote wash stations so people could wash their hands beyond just the porta potties, and hand sanitizer. So, tried to make sure that the people had the necessary supplies too.
Joelle, the website, Oregon.gov, right on the front page, it has the COVID-19, and you just click on that one and it'll take you to all the governor's executive orders, but also all of those finalized guidelines. Okay. And then on our website, the Chamber's website, we just put up a list of local Oregon suppliers of PPE. So whether it's the plexiglass or, with hand sanitizer, I think is it Drop Top or Drop Shop? I can't remember the name of the whiskey producer. It's what? Sorry?
Drop Shop.
Drop Shop, yeah. And Brad knows they're, they were a distillery, right? And now they're making hand sanitizer, and the hand sanitizer doesn't taste as good as the whiskey, does it? It doesn't. I'll just be, yes. But and so one of the things that we're trying to do is also encourage, buying locally of folks that have these products. Number one, you're going to get them faster than you are, and you're going to know where they're sourced as well. So when you're picking, the label off, this is made in China, there's not going to be a lot of confidence.
I saw also there's a lady in Gaston that's doing something kind of like the Million Man March. It's like the Million Mask Movement or something like that. And it's just a group of people all over the country. It's some Facebook thing, but they can join in and make masks, and they're donating to anybody and everybody. So you can email them and say, hey, I need 10 for my business, and they'll put their network together. It's kind of an interesting, the lady, I guess, is a nurse and just does it on the side, but it's snowballing. So that's
nice. I do think that there's, lots of folks that have been joining in, trying to figure out, and you also had a lot of local Oregon manufacturers that are like, how can I pivot? If I'm a plexiglass, that's going to be something that, a lot of folks are going to be purchasing, and they change around their assembly lines, and all of a sudden now they're in the PPE business. And it looks like that's going to be with us, for a while, that we're going to have these kinds of protocols. And I appreciate, Keith, the planning piece of it. And, I would encourage all of our small businesses that, are in the process of being, a part of phase 1 implementation, to take that time to go through all of your guidelines, all of your, policies. And I would like to get a copy of your work remote agreement, if I could, please, because never thought, we would be working remote, and so really didn't have a lot of agreements around that, and would like to put a little more structure around that. I think that's going to be important. And I do think that, because of the fear and also just the fact that, in some cases, if you are more productive working from home, your employer, if they can continue on even when you're able to open up, that might be something they want to continue. And having a more structured situation for that, I think, is a good idea. And having those policies in place so that there's no questioning. And I think the other thing that I've heard, which I think is really smart, is on your websites, especially in a retail setting, restaurant settings, is really just be very explicit about how you're planning to keep customers safe. And as well as how your employees are implementing protocols to ensure that they stay safe. But again, how and what are the customers, to your point, putting up signs and helping them navigate what are the rules of the road, because we're all really confused. We used to walk right in Costco. Now circling around the block to go into Costco, and we're waiting. So everything is different. But we're all, I think, willing to conform to whatever is different, but helping with communication, I think, is really important.
I can get you a copy, Deanna, of the work remote agreement and stuff, but if you wanted to share that, you're more than welcome to do that. I just think it just helps with, the consistency of what you're doing. And two things that kind of came to mind while you were talking about that is that one is that, we're still hiring. So for us, it's really nice because we're having a lot of trouble finding people to come to work, in our industry. Nobody seems to want to do much of that anymore. So the applicants have started to come in a little bit better. So that's kind of good. We're still actually looking to hire a few people. And I forgot what the second thought was.
Okay.
Well, it was the opportunity to reinvent things with how we do it for our people. We're probably going to have a lot of people that are going to be working from home in the future. I can see my sales staff, as an example, working half the time in the office and half the time from remote. I think it's really kind of opened our eyes. There was always this worry that, oh my gosh, what are they going to be productive? Are they going to be doing what they're doing and stuff? And bottom line is, look, if somebody's not doing what they're supposed to be doing in or out of the office, we're going to know it pretty quick. And I think we've actually been going really smoothly, and everybody's been above and beyond, and everybody's been pretty accessible. And I think everybody's also enjoyed the opportunity to be safe and be working from home. So, we'll see what that looks like going forward, but it's probably not going to look like it used to look.
Right. Joelle, did you have a question? Sorry.
Was that me?
Oh, Joelle raised her hand, and then I'll come.
Go ahead, Joelle.
I actually had a question for, I think, is it Josh? That's who was just talking.
It was, yes.
With the auto group. Curious what you are doing to communicate to your customers what your expectations are if they do come in to buy a car, because we have the information on our website and we've put it on some Facebook, social media, but there are a lot of people who just drop in who haven't bothered to check before they come. And that's what we're really trying to communicate is check before you come to businesses to know what their expectations are. And it's difficult sometimes.
Yeah, all of our communications basically say if you're interested, so service department, if you need to get your car fixed, they're open. They've been essential from the jump. But it's very clear once you arrive here what the rules are. We have a lot of signs and a lot of locked doors and a lot of arrows go this way, and plexiglass, tape on the floor, the whole shebang. But since then, we've just created kind of a commercial campaign that says we're still open, but you have to reach us this way online, and that sort of thing. So we do have people, that will come onto the lot, just normal business. And we will have salespeople that engage with them, but they engage with a face mask on and, with the expectation that we're all 6 feet away and this is how we operate, which I'm surprised at how quickly it took around here because, it's a kind of a good old boy business in a lot of ways that it's like, hey, pal, if I'm not shaking your hand, I can't trust you. But we've adapted really quickly, which is cool. And I was going to show you. We've got these little guys that kind of look like underwear in some ways, but they do the job. So we've got those for customers, for employees, for everybody, branded and everything. Because don't miss an opportunity.
I kind of want one of those. I'm just saying, Josh. I kind of want.
Next time I see you, Keith.
Yeah. All right.
But you've taken something now and turned it into a marketing, piece that giving it out to your customers, and now they're helping you market it. And I think, that's a brilliant idea.
I was going to add to something Keith said too, about hiring and using this as an opportunity. So once we got past, ownership did a great job of handling this initially, furloughed the people that they needed to, kept the essential people and worked skeleton crews, but we're now sort of pivoting into this is an opportunity to not only build loyalty in the community as a business that's operating at a high level of cleanliness and respect for customers, but also talent acquisition. I mean, if people around the community, maybe aren't working at a place, there are a lot of places that I don't think do it as well as we do in the auto group. that can now see us as operating at a high level, selling a lot of cars, working with a lot of customers in a good way. We're using that as an opportunity to sort of elevate and hopefully bring, you know, more talent into the fold. As it sounds opportunistic, that could be a good thing and a bad thing, but yeah, we're using that opportunity. And I was going to say also, finally, Keith, we've seen our, just down the hall from me is the office where our accounts payable, accounts receivable, HR, there's about, I don't know, 18 to 20 people that work in this small office space who have all been remote from the beginning. And we have metrics that not only say are they more productive, but we also see that as an opportunity to attract talent as a perk of the job, because that's the workforce coming in is, you know, is it flexible? Can I work remotely? And if we can say, as, you know, in the car business, yes, just like construction, you know, drag it out of the 70s in a lot of ways. But yes, we, you know, that's a perk of the job now. So it's kind of interesting how it quickly goes into a, you know, take the chance to get better and show yourself as, you know, doing business at a high level, which is something I didn't expect, but here we are.
Well, there's two things, Josh, that I also heard here recently that the takeaways for me. One is that, and I heard Mark Cuban from the Dallas Mavericks, the NBA team, say in one of his FaceTime talks or whatever, said, you know, how a company deals with this going forward is really going to define the culture, not just as a company in their community, but to their people. And it's going to define them for years to come. And I think that statement is absolutely true. So in a lot of ways, it's an opportunity for us in our businesses. And it's an opportunity to reinvent ourselves and to make ourselves better and to reinforce and reinvigorate that relationship that we have with our employees and future employees. And the second thing that I heard, I was listening to Sam Walton talk a little bit, and he was talking about, and Warren Buffett, and they were talking about Berkshire Hathaway and what the future looks. And Warren Buffett and said, you know, says, there's been a lot of challenges. There's going to continue to be a lot of challenges, but don't bet against America. And I take stock in people. They've been around a long time and they've seen a lot of business and they see a lot of things and they know what their hands are in a lot of pots. And when they make statements like that, I know why they're saying it and I know what they're meant. But I believe that if we cling to those kinds of things, there's not a whole lot we can't do. We just have to rally each other together to make it happen is all.
I saw a headline today that said the pandemic is the opportunity for innovation. And we're seeing that, right? That's what the outcome of it is, that we're going to innovate our way out of it. And yeah, so I just thought that was really interesting. So thank you guys very much. This has been a very interesting conversation. And it's one that, you know, I know a lot of people will be listening to because they're in this situation of trying to figure this out, and and it's fearful. As an employer, you have a lot of fears and concerns about what's going to go wrong. And but I think that we have some great examples of, you know, how to do it right. So thank you so much for sharing that valuable information with us today. Truly appreciate it. Our next Small Business Solutions Series workshop is tomorrow at 10 a.m. featuring David Jensen, talking about entrepreneurial structure and organizational challenges, and just really a focus on taking this situation and how do you apply different types of organizational structures and outcomes and thought behind your business as it looks today. So I hope you can join us. Please take care. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.